urban campus.
Have you ever imagined a place where the sea does not carry blue waves but only garbage, oil, and a strong stench? Here, survival hangs by a thread, a razor-thin line between fighting on and giving up. Just beyond the roaring cranes and stacked containers of Manila's northern port lies a hidden world, one you won't find in glossy travel guides or the news. Like the forgotten corners of Detroit or rural Appalachia, these slums are a reminder of what happens when systems fail the most vulnerable. Yet, in the filth and danger, people build homes, raise kids, and push forward with raw grit. This isn't a travel documentary about perfect beaches or bustling markets. It's about real people, real struggles, and the kind of resilience that makes even the toughest guys stop and think, what would I do in their shoes? Join us as we dive into the heart of Manila's slums, the place where I thought survival was impossible. Manila Bay, where the skyline glitters with modern towers and luxury malls, seems like a symbol of progress and prosperity. But as we zoom in, the true story begins to unfold, a story of inequality, poverty, and survival. Beneath the shine of the city, an entire community struggles to survive in conditions most would find unimaginable. The slums of Manila Bay didn't happen by accident. They are a result of decades of rapid urbanization, poor planning, and the relentless migration of people seeking better opportunities in the capital. The slums began forming as far back as the 1950s, when rural residents from the provinces flocked to Manila for jobs in the booming industrial and service sectors. With little to no affordable housing available, many ended up on the edges of the city living in makeshift homes on the outskirts, near rivers and along the coast. This, combined with the city's lack of infrastructure and poor waste management, turned Manila Bay into a dumping ground, physically and metaphorically, for the country's underprivileged. Rusted, corrugated iron roofs precariously perch on the dark, undulating waters of Manila Bay. What seems like a chaotic mess of makeshift homes built from scraps of wood, plastic, and metal is actually the foundation of a community struggling to survive. Families cling to whatever they can find, crafting shelters that barely keep them safe from the elements. The stench of decay and the sight of plastic waste drifting in the water is an everyday reality. In Manila, poverty and environmental neglect have become inextricably linked. According to the National Solid Waste Management Commission, Manila generates about 9,700 tons of waste every day. Shockingly, 17% of this waste is untreated and dumped directly into rivers and oceans. Manila's port, once a symbol of the country's trade power, is now one of Southeast Asia's worst plastic waste hotspots. Every square meter of the water is a grim reminder of overconsumption. Plastic bags, fast food wrappers, and bottles pile up, slowly choking the bay. Men like Ramon, a 38-year-old father of 3, wake before dawn to face the garbage heaps, his voice rough from years of breathing toxic dust. I don't sleep much. Every bottle, every scrap of metal I find puts rice on my kids' plates. If I stop, they starve. Each day, Ramon wades through piles of rotting waste, his hands scarred from sharp glass and rusted cans, searching for anything worth a few pesos. The work is grueling, 12-hour shifts under the scorching sun, with no gloves, no brakes, and no safety net. Last month, a cut from a broken bottle sent him to a makeshift clinic, costing half his earnings. But he keeps going, driven by the thought of his youngest daughter, Anna, who dreams of school. More than 15,000 households now live in the slums along the coast, most of them migrants from rural areas who arrived seeking a better life, only to find themselves pushed to the fringes of society. These families have no permanent homes, no stable income, and no legal protection. They are trapped in a cycle of poverty with little hope of escape. As a result, these slums have become a generational trap. According to a 2022 UN Habitat survey, up to 70% of children in these coastal slums never finish primary school. Not because they don't want to learn, but because they lack the resources and the schools to attend. Over 40% of families here have no access to clean water. The water they use for drinking, cooking, and bathing comes from the same polluted rivers and canals filled with trash, oil, and untreated sewage. Diseases like diarrhea, skin infections, and respiratory illnesses are so common that they have become an unavoidable part of daily life. These diseases are not seen as emergencies, but rather as the rhythm of existence in a place where survival takes precedence over everything else. Manila's slums weren't created overnight, nor were they caused by the people who live there. They were born from decades of neglect, poor governance, and the unchecked growth of the city. For years, the government has treated the issue as a problem for the future, something that will take time to fix. Meanwhile, the waste keeps coming, the disease keeps spreading, and the people keep suffering. Can you imagine what life is like for the women living there? Around 40% of the population in these areas consists of women, many of whom are the primary breadwinners in their families. But for these women, survival is a daily fight, shaped by the harsh realities of poverty, exploitation, and systemic neglect. Most of these women have no choice but to resort to whatever means they can to make ends meet. In an environment where opportunities are scarce, they turn to scavenging, picking through heaps of garbage in search of plastic, metal, or anything they can sell for a few pesos. They brave dangerous conditions, sorting through hazardous waste, often without gloves or protective gear, exposing themselves to sharp objects, bacteria, and the risk of serious illness. In addition to scavenging, many women find work in the underground economy, including in karaoke bars that double as fronts for illegal activities. Here, they are subjected to exploitation, working long hours and often degrading conditions, with little protection or oversight. For some, this is their only option to survive in a city that has turned its back on them. They are forced into these spaces where their bodies are commodified, their worth measured by how much they can earn from serving alcohol or entertaining clients. In the most tragic cases, some women turn to selling their bodies, offering themselves for sex in exchange for basic necessities like food, shelter, or medicine. The lack of social services and the absence of a proper safety net leave them with few choices, but to endure these degrading and dangerous situations, they are often forced into silence, as the stigma surrounding their work isolates them from any support. There is little to no protection for these women. The local authorities, overwhelmed and underfunded, fail to provide any meaningful safety measures. Women who are victims of abuse, harassment, or violence have nowhere to turn, as legal frameworks designed to protect them are either non-existent or largely ineffective. The lack of a support system leaves them vulnerable to further exploitation, creating a vicious cycle of poverty and violence. Despite the dire circumstances, these women display remarkable strength and resilience. They work tirelessly to provide for their families, doing what they can to break free from the grip of poverty and degradation. But the challenges they face are overwhelming, and without proper support, the cycle of exploitation and hardship continues. Their stories remain largely unheard, and their struggles remain hidden behind the walls of Manila's slums. Will anyone ever hear their cries for help, or will they continue to live in the shadows, invisible to the world? Have you ever eaten KFC chicken? In your country, those leftover bones might be thrown away, but here, they are brought back to life. In the slums of Manila, where food is scarce and survival is a daily struggle, even the bones of chicken are salvaged and transformed into a meal. Chicken bones adobo, a humble yet vital dish, takes what others discard and turns it into sustenance. For families living in poverty, nothing goes to waste, and the bones, once discarded, become a source of nourishment. What seems like trash to many is a lifeline to those living on the edge, highlighting the resilience and resourcefulness required to survive in such harsh conditions. Every day, they collect leftover chicken bones, skin, and any leftover meat scraps from the dump, which are washed, boiled, and cooked in a simple adobo sauce to make a meal that can stretch for multiple days. Though it may seem unappealing, this dish represents resourcefulness in the face of extreme poverty. This simple dish is often served with rice, making it a complete meal for many children who might otherwise go hungry. For those who live in Manila's slums, chicken bones adobo is not just a meal, it's a symbol of survival. It's a bitter reality, but it's the reality they live every day. By 2024, it was estimated that over 257,000 people were living in the coastal slums of Manila, according to the Partnership of the Philippine Urban Poor. To put that number into perspective, that's the population of a medium-sized city, all without legal rights to their homes. These families live in homes barely larger than 15 square meters, a space where 5 to 8 people eat, sleep, and cook together. The materials that form their homes are whatever they can find: rotted wood, rusty corrugated iron, old plastic, and even torn cement bags. In this cramped space, they face an unthinkable reality. There is no reliable electricity, no clean water, and no sanitation or waste treatment system. Just imagine the basic act of washing your face with water scooped from the sea, water contaminated with 17% of Manila's daily waste, according to the National Solid Waste Management Commission. A 2021 study by the Philippine Environmental Management Agency found that the E. coli levels in the coastal waters of Manila were 100 times higher than what is considered safe. And yet, this polluted water is where people wash their clothes, bathe, defecate, and even sometimes find food. With no other choice, styrofoam boxes are repurposed as boats, and garbage bags are hauled up to be sorted. Plastic bottles and aluminum cans are exchanged for a few coins, enough to buy rice, fish sauce, and salt. Education here is a distant dream. A 2023 survey by Save the Children Philippines found that 64% of 7 to 12-year-olds in these coastal areas are unable to read. Many of them have never been registered in any civil records, meaning they have no birth certificates, and without that, they cannot access public schooling, healthcare, or even register for exams. For these children, the future seems even more hopeless. When the rainy season comes, these makeshift homes become breeding grounds for disease. Dengue, fever, pneumonia, and diarrhea spread rapidly, and children are the first victims. A 2024 study by the University of the Philippines revealed that the mortality rate for children under 5 in these coastal slums is 4 times higher than that of children in urban districts with proper healthcare systems. But perhaps what is most heartbreaking is not just the numbers. It's the truth that these communities are almost invisible in the eyes of the government. They lack household registration, an administrative area code, or any legal recognition. They have no right to medical benefits, no access to relief during natural disasters, and no recourse when they are forcibly relocated. They live in the capital city of the Philippines, yet they are not recognized as citizens. So, how did this happen? It is not just poverty. It's the result of a long series of failures. Failures in land management, budget allocation, population control, and most importantly, failures in social equity. Urban policies are written for those who can afford them, leaving everyone else to be pushed to the margins. Tourists visiting Manila will see a vibrant city with deep blue beaches, ancient Spanish architecture, and delicious street food. But they will never see the dilapidated roofs hidden behind the harbor, the starving children scavenging for scraps under the blistering sun, or the mothers washing clothes in water that reeks with contamination. This is the reality of the Manila slums, the part of the city that society prefers to ignore. Though these slums are often absent from official maps, they have not been forgotten. In the face of a slow and chaotic public administration, the people here have taken matters into their own hands, creating pockets of light amidst the darkness. By the end of 2023, over 45 non-governmental organizations were actively working in the coastal slums surrounding Manila Bay, bringing critical support in the form of education, health services, environmental projects, and legal assistance. Makeshift classrooms have sprung up under hot tin roofs with volunteers, often students or retired teachers, helping local children who have been left behind by the formal education system. In just 6 months, the Learning Under the Roof program increased literacy rates for 8 to 11-year-olds from 28% to 63%, a small but powerful victory in a place where hope is often in short supply. Community health and environmental initiatives have also started to make a difference. Through projects like the Clean Shores, Clean Lives project, spearheaded by Plastic Free Philippines, over 1,200 locals have been trained to sort recyclables, helping to remove over 110 tons of plastic waste in just 18 months. This program has created a small, sustainable recycling economy, providing extra income for hundreds of households. Micro-entrepreneurship is on the rise, with small bamboo stalls, clean water points, and solar-powered services beginning to dot the landscape. Despite these achievements, the community remains fragile. Many of these initiatives are supported only by temporary grants, and without continued funding, there's a real danger that 60% of the programs could be shut down in the next 12 months. What would happen if the classrooms disappeared? If the trash sorting jobs are no longer funded? If the people who have fought so hard to create a better life are left with nothing? The residents of these slums never asked to be saved. What they needed was opportunity, the chance to be recognized, to live with dignity, and to have a voice in the city they help sustain. While the road ahead remains uncertain, these small acts of resilience are helping to rewrite the narrative of Manila. It's not just a city in crisis, it's a city where resilience is born from the most unlikely places: garbage, dirty water, and poverty. In August 2024, the unthinkable happened. Within just 36 hours, a torrential downpour and an unexpected tidal surge submerged more than 70% of Manila's portside slums. What had been already fragile homes built from scavenged materials were now drowning in filthy, contaminated water. The floodwaters pushed layers of uncollected trash back into the homes, spilling onto beds, rice cookers, and even shared living spaces. For the families here, the flood didn't just damage property, it destroyed their sense of stability. And yet, this was just the beginning. Manila Bay is sinking. According to the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, sea levels in Manila Bay are rising at an average of 0.4 centimeters per year, higher than the global average. The flooding of the slums has become more frequent, and the consequences more dire. Within 3 weeks of the flood, the Department of Health reported a doubling of hospitalizations for diseases like diarrhea, skin rashes, and respiratory infections. A local health center in Baseco district revealed that 62% of children under 10 were malnourished or severely dehydrated after the disaster. Can you imagine a child's pain, not just from hunger, but from knowing there's no food left to eat? The environmental destruction didn't stop at health concerns. The temporary classrooms, which had offered hope for education, were completely destroyed. Community programs like the Clean Shores, Clean Lives project were halted as the recycling centers flooded, leaving workers without income. Murals, once filled with vibrant colors and joy, became mere smudges in the black waters. The very symbols of hope now washed away in the floods. The statistics are grim. According to an internal report from Urban Development Watch, only 12% of community rehabilitation projects in coastal Manila are designed to withstand floods lasting longer than 24 hours. What does that say about the durability of these solutions? They were built on fragile foundations, unable to withstand the onslaught of natural disasters. Furthermore, funding for non-governmental organizations and community programs has dropped by 31% from 2022 to the end of 2024 as resources are diverted to areas affected by typhoons and droughts. But the real devastation isn't just caused by the floods. It's caused by a system that doesn't work in harmony, where central and local governments fail to communicate and decisions are made in a disjointed, chaotic way. Forced relocation orders have been issued without clear plans, and health services have been slashed due to budget cuts. So, what are the families supposed to do? Where do they go when floodwaters rise on one side and eviction orders loom on the other? In desperation, many families have been forced to sell their last possessions, rice cookers, metal doors, just to afford clean water, medicine, or pay off debts they've incurred from the flood's aftermath. A study by the Asian Development Bank shows that 53% of households in Manila's coastal slums are trapped in a cycle of recurring debt, borrowing to pay off old loans just to survive another day. But for the families here, it's more than just a cycle. It's a never-ending struggle for survival. Have you ever known someone who had to sell their roof just to buy cold medicine for their child? For the people of Manila's slums, this isn't an isolated tragedy. It's a reality that plays out every rainy season. A single storm can destroy more than a roof. It can wipe out a future. And with the constant cycle of floods, debt, and displacement, how much longer can this system survive? Thank you for taking the time to watch and learn about the struggles and resilience of those living in Manila's slums. I hope this story has given you a deeper understanding of the challenges they face daily. Their story isn't just one of hardship, but also of strength and determination. Please don't forget to share this video so more people can learn about these untold stories. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in our next video. Stay tuned for more powerful stories from the heart of our world